Welcome to the School of Imperfection. I'm your host, Mikie Krisztal. So today we're talking to John-Paul Dombrowski. And John is an awesome person. And he is a therapist, a coach, and writer focused on helping people develop deeper presence, self-understanding, and emotional clarity. But the reason that I reached out to John-Paul was that I saw a clip of him on Instagram where he's become an Instagram megastar since then. Way to go, John-Paul. He was talking about parts work. And parts work for me has been, in my mental health journey, something that's massively helpful. And he does a good job of explaining a pretty complicated way to think about your own mind that sounds like spiritual woo, but is in fact very much psychology. And it has to do with recognizing that many times when you have conflicting inside voices, what you really have are different parts that want different things. And in doing parts work, we learn how to sort of listen to those voices and negotiate between them. So in all of the things that I've tried, which is many over the last 5 years of a sort of spiritual self-help journey that I've been on, I've tried, sound healing, chakra balancing. I've tried Be Here Now by Ram Dass. I've tried The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. I've gotten into Alan Watts. Sadhguru, inner engineering. I've tried a lot of it. And the one thing that has really stuck around as a useful tool for my mental health has been parts work. So John-Paul does a really good job of explaining how all this works together. And he's an all-around great guy. So tune in. Found you on Instagram, and I think it was an internal family systems, like a parts work video that drew me to you, because it was something that I learned about, within the last 6 months and turned my world upside down, but also one of the most effective of all of the healing, quote unquote, techniques. Like that one made a real dent, actually.
Yeah.
But people don't know about it. People don't talk about IFS or parts work or anything like that. So tell us about you and what you do, and then maybe we can dive into that.
It's fun with IFS. It's definitely kind of a newer, I think it's kind of taken the field by storm because it's super intuitive. Like it just makes so much sense. And at the same time, it has that kind of penetrating depth. But a little bit about me, 29 years old. I live in a small town in Ohio, like an old steel town that actually at one point had the highest income per capita. And then, steel got exported, and now it's just kind of like an old, small town. 18,000 people, small town that's just kind of like struggling along. I'm Catholic. I'm a Roman Catholic. And so that's actually why we're here. My dad taught at the university, Franciscan University, which is in terms of the Catholic world, it's probably one of the more popular schools. Small school though, 2,500 people. And I got into psychology, got into therapy because there's kind of two stories. And the one story is I thought it was really cool. I had a class in high school, and that's certainly true. I started learning about Freud and defense mechanisms. The story under that is that and I was super depressed in starting in fifth grade. And I went to a bunch of people, and I remember sitting across from this one guy and thinking to myself, it's so shitty that I hurt so bad and you're so bad at this, and it was just kind of it was just an experience, and he was a boomer. I was in, probably by that time I was probably 10 or 11 or 12. Yeah. And it was totally just there's no planet on which I think this guy actually cares about understanding me and who I am from the inside. And so, I think that's the reality for almost everybody in the healing world, is we all kind of have some sense of a savior complex. We're trying to rescue ourselves, and give to other people what we couldn't have. But that's kind of right now what I'm doing is I'm opening up my own practice, like a psychotherapy practice called Kum. And I'm also about to launch kind of my own personal brand on the side. A couple months ago, I actually had a buddy that started an Instagram, and it's something that I've been wanting to do for a while. I was like, I can do that. And so I just sent it. And in about 3 or 4 months, I have 27,000 followers. Yeah, man. And it's all most of the videos are me walking out to my car, just being this is what I'm thinking about today. I don't write any scripts. Sometimes there's an idea that I get and I kind of mull over it or put a couple trial reels out to see. But yeah, I'm just, it's kind of fun. I feel like it's a period in my life where things are exploding. Like I never really would have, not that I never thought they would, but I'm trying less and things are happening to me like, way more. So that's kind of a little blurb of kind of, some of my background and where I'm at right now and what I do. So yeah.
Amazing. Well, congrats on the recent and explosive success. That's always the best case scenario.
Yeah.
It reminds me of something someone said who's smart that I don't remember his name, but a writer of books. And he was talking about how like the universe responds to like your confidence when you launch the thing. And he's like, that's why, if someone's like, I have an idea and they kind of never get off the ground or they kind of started or whatever, it's going to fail. But the person who's like, I'm going to fucking do this, and like they do it, like responds in kind. And so you're like living proof of that. So what do you do now? Are you able to monetize the growth? Like, are you figuring that part out, or like, how are you turning that into a business?
Yeah, man, that's the question right now. And so I'm actually about to release like a free, I love sales. I love business.
Good.
I fucking hate being salesy. Like I hate it, but I do really believe that if you have a product and you believe in that product, that everything else will take care of itself. Not that you don't have to put yourself out there. Like I just saw a post and it said something like, build it. And then it was crossed out and it said, and talk about it and talk about it and talk about it until people are annoying. And then maybe they will come, so I definitely believe that. It's not that I'm opposed to that, but I think, so the question to me right now is, how do I maintain who I am? Because the other thing that I've noticed in like, the Instagram kind of popping off is how badly like I want to lean into this sense of like being a guru or being a guy and kind of saying, just this. And this is one of the other real interests of mine, how easy it is for, there's a line in the Magnificat, which is when the angel appears to Mary and tells her that she's going to have Jesus, And one of the lines that she says about God is that he scatters the proud in the arrogance of their ideals. The danger of the mind is that it falls in love with its own creations. And so the danger, I think, for me right now is I don't want to fall in love with either who people see me to be or who parts of me that are really insecure and feel really small want me to be. And at the same time, I want to share a product. Like I want to support my family.
Yeah.
And I really am learning to lean into just an abundance mindset. Like there's just enough. There's so much. And so the goal right now is to kind of, I want to do some group work through that kind of personal brand. I really love working in groups. It's a really kind of cool niche that I enjoy. And then for people in Ohio, people who I can work with through the licensure as a therapist, because there's some limitations there that are kind of a pain in the ass. So essentially having, products for people who are in Ohio that I can serve therapeutically, and then kind of having products for people that I can work with who aren't in Ohio, who it's more kind of personal growth coaching, that kind of thing. So,
because there's like therapy, like legal therapy, or however you want to define it, and then there is self-help or guided coaching, which could be one and the same, but in terms of the jargon, you have to position it differently.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's kind of it's a whole other thing that we could get into, the technicalities of the field, but that's not that enjoyable or interesting.
I'm happy to have a vet sesh anytime. But let me ask you this, because there's two. You kind of gave me two paths, because you brought up something and immediately like a light bulb went in my mind, and the light bulb said ego. And you were talking about, do I want to be a guru? Like you have this growth, people are listening to you, and do you let your ego take the wheel? And now it becomes me and my show, or how can you stay true to the original goal? And is that going to be a struggle that you're aware of, or is it like, no, fuck it, I want to be famous. Let's do this shit. Do you think about that?
Oh yeah, dude, all the fucking time, all the time when I want to make a video, and it's not so like, what I think about is, and this is where I think IFS plays such a strong part, is that like there's really young parts of me that didn't get what they needed growing up.
Yeah.
That either got rejected or bullied or hurt or whatever it was. And they see redemption. They see, oh, now I can show it. Right. It's even interesting. I was talking to my buddy, like how powerful some of these people from high school were. I went to high school with 250 kids, but I can still see their faces and names and be like, man. And it's like, what the fuck? What? Like, that's not me anymore. I'm not there. But
right.
So I think there's like parts of me who see this as the opportunity to kind of pull myself out from those feelings of rejection, those feelings of pain. So to me, I think that exploration of the role of ego in it is like, what am I trying to soothe in my actions? And am I living from a place of trying to soothe and trying to protect and, trying to manage life? Or am I actually living from this spacious abundance where it's like, well, I actually don't really want to become famous. Like, I actually really like just kind of having enough. Like, that's actually like, in terms of living from my center, that's really what I want right now, is to have enough. The irony of it is I already do have enough.
Right.
And yet there's these loops that are like, grow bigger, more. And then the appetite kind of always grows with it. So that kind of experience of the different parts of me reacting and kind of wanting to utilize or grab onto the success, that's very real.
Yeah. Which is natural, but you're aware of it. So that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can we talk about IFS parts work? Yeah. I haven't been able to talk to anyone who's an actual therapist about this. And I really I want to help people learn about it. And I'm not qualified, but I am experienced in doing it. And I read No Bad Parts. And that's the guy who pioneered it. Maybe like, this doesn't sound real, Yeah. And then you sit down and you try it and you're like, oh, I'm having a conversation with 7 of me and it's happening, Mm-hmm. Anyway, there's my projection for you, but
no, I think it's a super. I rarely explain IFS to my clients. I show them, and this is one of the kind of fundamental ideas of IFS. It's a good segue into it. Our culture has kind of bought wholesale this idea of what Dick Schwartz calls the mono mind, mm-hmm. which is that I am this unity. It only takes into account one dimension of my humanity, which is that I'm an individual unity. And so the issue that puts forth is like, okay, well, what happens when I don't want to get out of bed? But last night I said that I was going to wake up to my alarm, right? And then I experience all types of conflict. And what happens is I say, well, this part of me is acceptable and I need to work for it. This part of me that wants to wake up out of bed every morning and get up and do all my habits. And this part of me that wants to stay in bed, I have to like castrate it. Like, I got to cut it off. I got to push it off. I got to reject it. I have to exile it.
I hate it.
And you hate it, right? Yeah. And so the myth of the mono mind is this idea that if we have any type of ambivalence or any type of internal conflict, there's something that's wrong with us because we've screwed up somehow. And that's why we're not 100% unified with, our whole selves. And IFS says everybody's living experience screams in opposition of that. That there's a part of me that wants to just blow everything off today and go get sushi. And there's a part of me that wants to be on this podcast and wants to just be me. There's a part of me that wants to be like, oh man, I could really use this to push myself forward, or I could talk about all the offerings that I have and really use this as an opportunity to pitch, right? But for me, so working in IFS, what the recognition is that I'm not a single unified self. It's much better to think of each person as a self system of different parts. And if you treat these parts, or as we experience them, voices oftentimes, the voice that tells me like, oh, I want to go get blasted. And the other voice that's like, no, that's morally wrong. And the other voice that's like, this is all ridiculous. Why can't I just, sit down and hang out? Like, right. And so IFS says that we are a system and we learn to internalize a lot of the actors around us in our childhood. And then those voices kind of continue with us, throughout our lives. So the basic idea is that the voices in your head, you can actually treat as an individual kind of psychological whole. And then if you talk with this part, it will actually respond to you. And you can hear the story if you know how to ask the questions and how to enter what's called the self, the capital S self. This is one of the other central pillars of IFS. And if you or anybody else is familiar with Buddhist philosophy, the capital S self in Schwartz's IFS model is the same thing as no self in the Buddhist tradition. So it's egoless. It's actually the open space of awareness. So the self is, the best way to think about, I think the self is to remember a time when you were just there. You were just kind of soaking in and marinating in the present moment. You were open, creative, alive, connected. And these are the qualities of the self. The self is more of a dimension of being than it is an identity. The parts are all identities. They are all different, what we could say, ego states with their own perspectives and thoughts and developmental levels. Because parts, when they get burdened by hurt, either big emotions that they get stuck with, these would be exiles. So say if I say, I'm not allowed to feel sadness. There's a part of me that at some point in my life, I experienced so much sadness. And one part of me said, hey, I'm going to shove all this sadness over here. And then another part of me got stuck with it. And the exile is burdened by all the pain. And then there's a manager part that comes up. And the manager's role now is to manage my experience to avoid any possibility of that sadness showing up. And so the burden of the manager is I'm not allowed to feel sad and I need to avoid sadness. Then the third part, so you have exiles, managers, and then firefighters. And these are the parts that when exiles get triggered, so say sadness, something happens and that manager isn't able to keep the sadness at bay. That sadness washes over me. A firefighter comes in, just like firefighters do. It burns, like it doesn't care how the house is going to be after the fire. It's just saying, like, get you out of that sadness. And so this is cutting, binge eating, addictions, compulsions, anger, rage, these things that afterwards we're kind of like, I don't really know what happened. And so the goal in IFS is to develop a relationship with your system and all the different parts that operate in your system, and the self, which is undestroyable, completely open. A good analogy here is like all the stories about there's a prince that got dethroned, but like he really needs to come back to lead the kingdom, right? Like something like Lord of the Rings or something like that, where Aragorn's like, yeah, that's kind of like the self. The self is the one that's the natural leader. Like he doesn't really have to try. But the pain and difficulty has resulted in the self kind of being pushed away. And then the managers, right? Like the Duke or whatever, who's not really the king, but kind of operates like it. Those are our kind of managers.
But they think that they're you and they are you. You are and that's where it gets trippy. And to be clear, this is not spirituality. This is psychology, right? Like, and you could argue that they're one and the same. Like, I'm not going down that path right now, but
yeah, I would argue that they're one and the same, but we won't go down that path. I think they're different languages for different languages for the same experience. But go ahead.
But I think that often people who are all the way like science will shut down if they hear anything that touches the idea of spirituality, religion, etc. Then there are people who are, again, in the other camp who shut down if they hear anything in the realm of science, And so what I think is we have a lot of different languages to say similar things, and each has biases that are, unhelpful to the one side, let alone to the opposite side. And so anyway, point being, this is a psychological technique, not necessarily a spirituality. At least it's developed by a PhD, right?
Yes. I think he's a PhD, fairly certain. Yeah, he's LCS, no, or an MFT, but he has a PhD in it. I mean, even that, what you just said right there, that's kind of a central concept in IFS, which is polarization. Right. So this is the cool thing about IFS. It scales all the way down to the individual and it scales all the way up to the society. So you have people, right, who say science is the only answer. Right. Then you have people who say religion is the only answer. And they function as managers to say, we're going to completely keep away any kind of mystery, any kind of middle ground, right? Religion has this absolute certainty, or when it's polarized, right? Because there's also the beauty of both these camps is that they can be integrative.
Right.
But in what we would say their burdened state, they're polarized. And so this is what happens to us all the time is the analogy that I like to use with my clients is kind of like if you imagine like a little boat, like a little dinghy, and one part of us leans over. And so say, for example, one part of me says, I'm going to try this new thing. I'm going to go out on a limb and I'm going to put an Instagram post out. That part kind of leans over. And then another part of me says, oh, no, you don't, and leans over the other side. And then it just creates this polarity where these two parts are in gridlock because each has a position that's threatening to the other.
Yeah.
And so the burden there is like, oh man, it kind of sucks that there's not more of a dialogue between spirituality and psychology. It actually is something that I think is shifting a lot now. But it's a psychological framework, certainly, but it's a psychological framework that I think does make itself more amenable to integration with various forms of spirituality. And even Dick Schwartz in some of his writings, he talks about things like, self being a dimension that gives off certain frequencies. He also talks about things like exile or burden parts that are kind of like, you can take it a lot of different directions. But in mainstream psychology, yeah, it's a therapeutic approach.
Yeah, fair. And I hear what you're saying. And I think I only wanted to put that out there because the more you talk about it, the more it sounds like woo. And when
100%, it's so fucking woo.
Yeah. And the people, there are so many people, and I think men in particular, who are so closed off to anything that hints of woo, and it's a disservice because it works in personal experience. It does. And also the point, it's like, it's not necessarily woo, although what you think of as woo isn't really woo either for the most part. I think woo is kind of this pretend like Instagram, like hat, which is like, that's a whole other conversation. But anyway.
But even that, right? That's a burden.
Yeah.
So the way we would look at that is that there's a burden of masculinity.
Yeah.
Which oftentimes comes because so many men have been hurt when they expressed emotions.
Sure.
Because it's not because emotions are bad. It's because most of our dads didn't know how to handle emotions because they weren't taught. And so what's the easiest way to respond to something that we don't know how to deal with? Reject it. Right. And that is the manager. The manager says, don't you cry. You don't have any problems. There's nothing wrong with you. If you're going to cry like that, go to your room. And what happens in that moment is any person learns, okay, if I feel sadness, I am not going to be connected with the very person that's responsible for fulfilling every single one of my needs. Not a chance. What's the smartest thing to do here? Completely reject the sadness, cut off from it. And then I embody that same, what looks like strength from that scolding. And that part of me gets burdened with this rigid, excessive role. And the burden is when I feel sadness, I have to reject it. And then when my own sadness shows up, I do the same thing. And then guess what happens when my son comes up and he's crying? I respond to that sad part in him the same way this manager learned to respond to the sad part in me, the same way my dad learned to respond to me. And then he gets burdened and it goes so on and so forth.
Right.
So and this is why I say, man, don't lead with the explanation.
But like, if you just like can swallow, because I'm the type of analytical, like, if you're just doing the therapy and I don't know how it works, I won't know why it works. And I want to know how and why it works so that I can do it to myself. Like reading No Bad Parts, to me, it's like, okay, I get it. I can do this. Now I can do it. If I'm going to a therapist and I'm like, I don't know what they're doing, but I know I feel better, I guess I'll just keep going back. You know what I mean? And I guess I like the knowing what it is so you can actually work with it.
And I think that can come like appropriately. It's not that I never explain it, but I mean, we would have a conversation and I would say like, oh, Mikie, it sounds like there's a part of you that gets a lot of safety from thinking, and then like we would explore that, right? Because one of the qualities of the self is curiosity, a genuine curiosity of like, hey, what is this? What is this here? And I think, that's what makes a good therapist is somebody who is able to deliver a good therapist, a good mentor, a good coach, a good whatever you want to call it. Somebody who's able to deliver new and helpful information in the places and the times that it's accessible. And this is one of the things that I've learned, and one of the things that I teach all my supervisees. An intervention is not a good intervention if your client is not in a place where they can actually utilize it. Like, we need to be able to meet people where they're at and give them what they need. There is no one size fits all model.
Right.
And so I think that there is a way that those things can dovetail, but it's pretty easy to kind of guide somebody into it and then explain it afterwards. And I find that people catch on pretty quickly there.
Yeah, well, it's even as you said it, you're like, it sounds like there's a part of you that's like, that could be something I've heard in therapy, but not because I didn't know what they were doing. Like, they were saying a part of, like, oh, right, a part of me, parts work. So it's happening. And right, and not everybody needs or wants to know all of the nitty gritty, I guess, of what is actually happening. They just want someone to make them feel better. So that's fair.
But to your point, and this is the other thing, is that I think we have this sense and this belief in our culture that the best way to learn is to have an explanation. But it's fundamentally, that's very true, kind of like academic, but the way we learn is through modeling, through behavior. So like monkeys see, monkey do. This is like the strongest form of education. And so if I tell my clients, hey, go home and practice this, they usually don't.
Right.
But what I do find is when I treat my clients this way and I say like, oh, this is what we're doing. And they're like, yeah, I tried that at home. It's like, dude, that's awesome. That's fucking sweet. What happened? Like, and then we process it. So I think so much more is communicated in how we treat people than in what we actually say. But I do agree with you that there has to be a matching up of,
Well, it starts with listening, probably per your point, where like, what does this person actually need? Not, I know how to heal you. Listen. Like, shut up. And maybe that's like a parts thing too, right? It's like I have the answer and you don't. It's probably one of my own fucking special little parts,
Yeah, man. I mean, I have that too. And
it's a journey.
It is. Yeah.
Can we get a little bit weirder? And then I want to circle back to you and your business and talk about your product, because I want to give you that opportunity.
Thanks.
But selfishly, as we're talking about like managers, firefighters, the other one that I can't remember, and these things live in this virtual psychological universe inside of me somewhere. Like, what is it? What are they doing right now? Is he reading a book? Is he just bored? Like, are they fully conscious? Like, do you have a framework for how that actually functions and where things are in time and space, if I'm making any sense?
So they live in our bodies, and they're stuck in the moments where they were burdened. So like, I was journaling a couple weeks ago, and connecting with this young part of me. I could just tell that he was like 12 years old. And do you want me to show you? I can show you if you're up for that. If you're game, I can show you on myself, or I can guide you if you'd like. If you're game,
whatever. I'm on board. I overshare on this thing all the time, but also if you want to show me on yourself, it's whatever.
Sweet. So I'll take your oversharing and run with it.
Okay, let's do it. Shit.
So if you take them, is there anything on your, or even as I say this right now, this is a good place to start. Even as we've shifted this right now, you said, okay, I overshare all the time. Like, I'm game.
Yeah.
If you just kind of check in with your body right now, what, if anything, do you notice?
Usually I carry a lot of anxiety in the back of my neck and my feet, and sometimes my chest area. Yeah. Starting this podcast was one of the most emotionally intense experiences for sure.
So here's one of the things that I'll say is the things that I say, the prompts that I give you, don't expect them to pack a punch, right? Like, don't expect like, oh, this thing that, like, take it at face value. And if there's something there, you'll notice it. So one of the things that I always tell my clients when we're doing IFS work is imagine the questions that I ask you or invite you to ask yourself, like we're fishing. And when you fish, you just throw the bobber out there and you let it sit. You don't throw the bobber out there and then dive into the water and swim around looking for fish, because then nothing will show up.
Yeah.
And so if you ask a question, let the bobber sit. If something bites, it'll bite and you'll notice it. And if it doesn't, that's okay.
Okay.
What do you want to focus on? What would be a
Well,
good place to begin?
The thing that comes to mind as you're talking about that, and as we were talking about the podcast and the emotional intensity, is I think one of the biggest hurdles that even still is tough for me to overcome is like hyper fixating on not saying the wrong thing or things being taken out of context. And so I'm constantly thinking of, I would say, worst case scenarios, like planning ahead, trying to lay the tracks just right. And I've made some progress in that, but that's still just like a massive problem for me.
Yeah. Awesome. So this is the manager part, right? And I'm going to be pretty explicit here because I know that you said earlier that you like that explicitness.
Yeah.
And as you were speaking just there, and you can even kind of rip a little bit more, I want to plan everything out. He said this, should I cut that out? Like this party that's trying to see every possible scenario, right? And try to make sure that it all works.
Yes.
Like as you're feeling that, where's your kind of center of gravity? Where is that in your body? And it might be helpful here. Again, try to kind of sense into it. If you even just say it again, like I'm trying to plan everything out, thinking about the podcast, making sure it's all going. Even probably more helpful would be to talk about today, right? The things that you're really concerned about. And you're not going to upset me or, if it's about things that I said about Peterson or Mary or Jesus, like, let those things be the things that, whatever they are for you.
I would say I experience it in this. I can only answer this question based off of other work, which is like I've done a lot of chakra healing, energy center classes. And so I'd say I experience it mostly in like the root, which is like the safety and like the feet. It's all like root safety areas. As the more I talk, like I can feel it here, but really it's down there where I feel like, am I safe? Is this going to be okay? Sort of emotions,
Yeah. And is that what's shining through right now? Like if you just check in, you set up here, the feet. And what do you notice in your feet? How do your feet feel?
It's like, did you ever lick a AA or a 9-volt battery when you were a kid?
Yeah. It's electric. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I do it a lot now.
Yeah. Yeah. It's basically that kind of sensation.
Yeah. Yeah. And do you notice, is this sensation okay to be here right now? Or are you trying to keep it away or trying to tamp it down?
Definitely trying to keep it away. But then there's another part of me that's like, no, you need to listen to it. It's the most important thing. So it's both.
Yeah. Where do you notice that voice? Like when you say that just right there, no, you need to listen to it. It's the most important thing. Where's that hanging out?
I don't know. Somewhere in my mind here.
Yeah. It could be in the head. I mean, we have parts that just hang out here.
Yeah.
And so there's two parts here.
This area. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's probably two parts, maybe more. To that part, this is like, no, you need to listen to it. It's the most important thing. What's that part afraid of? And this is not a thought question, right? This is that like, I want you to just focus on that head.
Yeah.
And just ask like, what are you afraid of in this open-handed way? Just like casting the bobber out.
I think
just see what comes up.
Backlash, outrage, like everything being ruined. It's this idea that like making a mistake and everything's ruined.
When's the first time you remember feeling that?
Probably middle school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So right here, right, this is your system.
Yeah.
There's these feelings emerging. You're really feeling them in your feet. There's a party that's saying like, I don't want to go anywhere fucking near that thing.
Mm-hmm.
There's another party that's like, no, you fucking gotta fucking David Goggins heal the shit out of this thing.
Yeah.
you just gotta do it, right? And there's an exiled part here who's still stuck in middle school.
Right.
What are you noticing just as I'm saying this?
I mean, what comes to mind is I've been trying to get that little fucker out of middle school for like I'm aware, like I have a lot of awareness and I have so much awareness of this being one of like my core wounds that I don't know what I need to do differently. Or maybe I'm wrong and it wasn't that moment, or there's something else that moment's blocking me from or something. But that's what came to mind.
What does it feel like to be in middle school?
Bitty, shameful, like a nerd, because I felt like a nerd. I didn't know anyone.
Yeah. So this might be a helpful reframe. These feelings that you're feeling in your feet, this pain, this sadness.
Yeah.
It's not about you. It's a younger part of you that's begging for your empathy.
Mm.
And this part is making empathic bids that are saying like, Mikie, please, will somebody, I mean, as I was saying earlier, like this part for me in middle school, this part's sitting on a bed and he's just sitting there and he's just saying, I fucking hate myself.
Mm.
Like, I fucking hate myself. And empathy has to come before influence. So before I pull him out of that room, before we pull this part of you out of that room and try to get him out, right? Because that's actually another manager. It's a self-like part that probably has a lot of wisdom cognitively of healing and spirituality, that's saying like, okay, I gotta play the script.
Mm-hmm.
I have to rescue this part. A good rule of thumb with IFS is that anytime we feel an agenda, like I need to do this, or I need to heal this part, I need to get this part out of me. Anytime we feel that like I kind of something's pushing us forward or dragging us, it's a good indication that we're blended with a part and we're not actually in this place of self.
Mm-hmm.
Because we don't have to be afraid of those hurts in middle school anymore.
Right.
And that doesn't mean pull them out of there. It actually means like, oh no, 29-year-old John-Paul, I can step right in there. Like I can step right in there with this young 12-year-old part of me and sit on the side of the bed and just say like, buddy, I know you're hurting so bad. Like you are feeling so rejected. You're feeling so scared. You're feeling completely alone and like nobody can help you.
Mm.
And this is called witnessing. And witnessing is part of the unburdening process. And in witnessing, we show the young exiled parts and the managers that we as a self can actually handle these emotions by handling the emotions. And that means going and feeling the depth of the sadness and the hurt and the discouragement and the rejection. It's not even like processing, because processing is something that like adults talk about.
Yeah.
Right? It's going and sitting there on the rock with these parts of us and pretty much saying to these young parts like, hey buddy, you can cry this out till there's no tears to cry anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not scared of that.
It's interesting you say that, because I think sometimes you're doing this work and you're sitting down, and you're going into your mind and finding little boy you, and there's still this kind of like, hurry the fuck, like get the fuck over it. Like, come on.
Yes.
Acknowledging you. Come on. Shut up. Like,
right.
And there's still that. Yeah.
So who's that? Right? Where have you heard that voice before? When's the first time you heard, felt, saw, experienced that? Because that is a burden. So of course, this part, even in its attempts to help you heal, is carrying that same script. Like the burden here. So this is a manager part. Exiles are burdened by the big feelings, right? So that part that we were talking about earlier, the part that feels kind of nerdy and rejected, that feeling of like isolation. Those are the big feelings that exiles feel. That's that burden. Exiles are burdened by feelings.
Mm.
Managers are burdened by the jobs they have to take on to keep the exiles at bay. So for this part of you that says like, come on, buddy, like, let's go. If this part didn't do this job, what would happen?
What would happen to the part, or what would happen to me, or to the child, the inner child that
whatever comes up.
Convinced.
Like say this part. So we're just talking this part. We said, hey, if we're not asking this part to do this, but we just said like, hey, if you didn't go to work,
right?
Like if you quit,
yeah,
what would happen at the business? And this first thing that comes to mind.
Well, I think the first thing that came to mind was just sort of this like, I wouldn't be as frustrated, because sometimes it's like the manager is keeping itself in business by keeping me pissed off, by therefore keeping it in business. You know what I mean? It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah. And I mean, in business, right? How lousy is that? Man, the manager has a team of people that hate working for it, and he kind of hates his job.
Yeah.
Like that's the other part of this. This part, it doesn't like its job. It just doesn't have any other job. It doesn't know what else to do. This part is just like everybody in America who's working their freaking tail off to get out of debt, even though they fucking hate the job that they got the debt for.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's stuck. There is no option out. And this is why it's so threatening in this work to try to go in and just like move stuff really quick. Like, oh, pull this out, because it's a system.
Right.
And when you go in, it's not ecologically sensitive to go in and pull one part out of the system without considering like how it's actually wound in.
It's interesting you say that, because there's been times where I've like, and I think they in spirituality, it'll talk about this too. Sometimes like this idea that like, oh, you'll heal, and there'll be some massive blowback, like something on the other side of that. And I think that what you're saying is kind of maybe the result of sort of this moment, but now you have your body's realizing you didn't do it in a sensitive way to the internal ecology, which is a cool way to think about it.
And that's why I feel this right now in my body, like so fucking terrified of that desire to like be a guru.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because I can feel it. A guru. And this is, I think, a big burden in therapy. So many therapists feel this agenda to make people cry. A guru would say, no, man, we can go in. Let's like, we're going to go to this exile. We're going to like, and there might be a time and place to go there. Like, I'm not against doing the deep, direct work. But if we went into your system and into these young parts, we probably could access that pretty deep place of pain. And for one part of you, the exile part, it would feel really relieving. Finally, I'm seen. But for all the protective parts of you, right? The parts at the gates, which are saying, you can't go in there. Because if you start feeling this emotion, you're never going to stop.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we just snuck past the guards. We went in there and we felt the emotion. And now the guards are like, oh my gosh, I let my guard down. Somebody got in. The emotion got out. Like, now I need to build the walls even bigger.
Yeah.
So one of the things that can happen, and Dick Schwartz warns of this very explicitly, is that we can go in and try to work with exiled parts way sooner than it's appropriate. And what we need to do is we need to get the permission of the protectors. So the first thing to do is actually kind of like what we were doing, like, okay, this part that's saying like, come on.
Right.
Let's be sensitive to that part's wants and needs before we jump in to the actual exile pain.
So how do you do that? How do you be sensitive to that part? Because the exile, it makes sense, have empathy, right? Like, to it. But the manager is a different kind of experience, right?
It's curiosity and understanding. It's really asking like, how'd you get this job? Do you like it? I mean, a great way to think about it is you're coming in as a consultant to completely rework the company. Everybody's terrified that they're going to get fired.
Mm-hmm.
And your job is to go in there and say, I'm not firing you, only if you mean it, right? I don't want anybody to get fired. But Stacy, you hate accounting, but love marketing. And Jimmy, you love marketing, but hate accounting. You guys are just stuck in the wrong place.
Mm-hmm.
Because these parts have such natural gifts and qualities. And so we can ask this part, right? For example, this part that says, come on, that's burdened by that pressure, which you felt.
Yeah.
If you didn't have to do this job, like if it was actually taken care of, what would you want to do?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes those things come up right away. Sometimes things just come to my mind of like, dude, I'd love to go to the beach. I'd love to just play in a tree. Like, I'd love to read. So this is the thing. These parts are stuck in those places.
Right.
And they're stuck in our body. And by attending to the body and stepping into the experience, when the parts are unburdened, then they can actually trust us. Because it's like, oh, dude, if you can take all this weight and pain off my shoulders, maybe I can trust you when you tell me it's over. I can actually step out. Maybe I can trust you to take me somewhere to the present where it's safe.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. I don't know what job. I don't think it knows. It's kind of like when you try to get a new job yourself, like you're on your own career path. I mean, the parallel between like jobs and jobs is fucking interesting. Like,
yes.
Yes. And you tell someone who's like, oh, I hate my job. But what do you want to do? I don't know. This is what I know, like.
Right. What a burden that you never were actually like, for people in that position. Nobody sat you down and said like, this is a really big question. Let's look at some helpful ways to ask it.
Right.
Like, we go from like 8-year-old to like, okay, you're graduating college. And we just kind of like swoosh that down into like, pick one.
Right.
But that's a whole other attention here.
So I would love to keep doing this. And if you want to come on again and dive deeper, please do. This has been...
That'd be awesome, man. I'm totally game. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Before I let you go, tell me, you said you're releasing a new product. Tell me about it and like, how do I send people to you?
So what I'm releasing right now, it's called Mindfulness for Big Emotions. And it's a free mini course.
Okay.
And it's kind of follows the framework that we did here with learning how to experience these emotions through curiosity. It doesn't completely overlap with the IFS framework, but I actually plan to do like an IFS course as well, which is kind of like a self-guided exploration that kind of gives the exploration and then has like a meditation. So asking the question that I kind of asked. But Mindfulness for Big Emotions, it's a free product because I just think there's plenty of information that it's like, man, I want to give. Or this is, some marketing lady. And she says like, give, sell.
Yeah.
And that like resonates with me of like, I want to give as much as I really can.
Mm-hmm.
And there will be things that I have to sell. And if the stuff that I gave you feels like it was worth paying for, then you'll believe that this is worth it. And you'll actually buy it in good conscience rather than like, so anyway, it's a free mini series on, the first part is a breath meditation. The second part is learning to use mindfulness to kind of explore the kind of various things that show up in consciousness. And then the fourth part is a 45-minute meditation on experiencing these big emotions.
Yeah.
Learning how to kind of diffuse from it, to step back, to be curious. And then that'll be on my website, jpdombrowski.com. And then probably the best place to hop on is the one boat that I actually do have established, which is Instagram, and all that stuff will be on there. And that's just John-Paul Dombrowski on Instagram. And then I am going to be launching in the next couple of weeks a couple of group formats, kind of interactive groups where we do kind of group work like this, focusing on stepping into the present moment. And trying to help people to step out of those stories that we've gotten stuck in and really live here and now.
Amazing. I might be down for that, to be honest. I found, And thank you for the quick little IFS session. Honestly, it gave me like, I'm going to go sit and talk to this part a little bit after this.
Yeah, man.
You brought a greater awareness to a part that I hadn't considered, which is that high level manager part, who's like the one who's like frustrated with that. And I thought I was that. So it's tricky.
Yes.
Anyway. Yeah.
And this, I'll say this real quick because it's worth saying.
Yeah.
This is, I think, where we get stuck. And there's so much kind of healing.
Yeah.
Is we have this agenda and we don't realize that like, oh, that's a part that's trying to rescue another part. Parts can't rescue parts. The self first has to take care of that healing part, then can do the like.
Yeah.
So it has to come from that place of calm connection. So the first step is always learning to access that. Then we have such an easier ability to notice these parts, which my buddy calls sneaky managers.
Yeah.
That really feel like they're us.
Right.
But really they have this agenda.
So is it, as soon as you see an agenda, as soon as you feel an agenda, you know that you've become intertwined with the part and you can like
100%.
Yeah.
And the key there is you explore the agenda. You bring curiosity, genuine curiosity and interest to the agenda. Curiosity always helps us step back, like a genuine heartfelt curiosity.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the School of Imperfection podcast. If you are interested in exploring these ideas and more with us, don't forget to follow and subscribe to catch every future episode. If you enjoyed this episode, feel free to leave us a rating or send us an email to share your thoughts through www.theschoolofimperfection.com. We're always looking for more guests as well. So if you feel like you have an interesting perspective or a topic our podcast has not covered or has, we'd love to connect with you. I'm your host, Mikie Krisztal. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you next time.